The monotonous clacking of keys hammered away the last of the little sanity they had left. Their day had been spent getting sucked dry of any happiness from the fluorescent bulbs that baked them from above. This was their life, though, and every day from 9 until 5 they would be here, entering numbers and taking calls for the painful break from the emotional drying the rest of their day spent being. Today was different, though, as the worst thing imaginable entered their head. Pride. They didn't know what had caused the sudden change of mind. Maybe the grating yellow light had finally made them go insane. They didn't care to know, though, as they knew one thing and one thing only. They deserved better. Producing the best client turnover in the company for the past couple months could not mean nothing. What would they ask for, though? Most likely all they would receive is a pay raise. They knew this, and they sat imagining the great trips they could take on their multiple-week vacation, or the beautiful sight from their personal penthouse office. This dance in dreamland lost all balance at the sudden knock on the cubicle, though. Torn from their train of thought, they dizzily asked what they were needed for. A calm voice wafts its way into their ears, dragging their heart rate to that of a drummer boy on way too much caffeine. "Hey, would you mind stopping by my office for a little bit? I wanted to talk to you about something." They nod yes, not even fully grasping what they are agreeing to, only knowing that they cannot say no. The tapping of dress shoes gets further and further away as they finally get a grasp on their rampant imagination. Being asked by the boss to go to his office. It wasn't an impossible occurrence, but not a common one either. Why would they be asked, though? Had they done something wrong? A couple days ago, when handling a call, they knew they put in the wrong numbers for the order and just didn't feel like fixing it, so they put it in anyway. Or maybe it was when they took an extra donut from the break room knowing everyone was supposed to get only one. What if it was something they didn't even realize they had done? Why today, though? Today started with so much confidence, only for the bloated balloon to be popped in an instant. No. This was a better opportunity than they could have ever asked for. They knew that if they wanted that promotion that they had been dreaming of, it was now or never. The fears of every mistake they had made for the past month pushed against the door of their main thoughts, only being held back by the weak arms of confidence, holding with all its might against the door. This battle would rage for the next hour until they had finished their work for the day. They would look over to see the office open. This was their chance. It was time to make a move. They stood up, their legs nearly falling out from underneath them. Each step banged the door to let every gremlin of a thought through that fragile hold of their courage. Wading through the emotional marsh took everything they had. So much so that they ended up being drenched in sweat and out of breath by the time they had walked the 10 feet it took to get to the office. They looked at the door, reading off every letter individually to hopefully regain some strength. M.R.A.I.R.I. For how many times they have seen this same sign on the door, standing this close only made them dread the next steps even more. However, they marched on, knowing that since they had gotten here, they could not turn back, no matter how much they wanted to. They peeked through the doorway, the blonde streams rolling down past his shoulders. An unbroken golden flow, only contained by one hand that held enough back to make out a face, as it also swung a pin around with enough force to fly through the window. He focused on the documents on his desk in front of him. His eyes held a gaze strong enough to keep a windstorm from so much as moving a single paper from its place. It was there, even if it was only for a second. A bond held so tightly between him and this paper that nothing could get in between. A bond as strong as love. "Oh, hey, I didn't see you there." The voice striking them right across the chin, nearly knocking them out from the sudden drop back to reality. "You know you can knock, by the way. I'd prefer you to do that, too, because my work here is not for the faint of heart, and because I don't feel like explaining pay decreases to everybody." Garnet flooded their face as they staggered through a beaten-up apology that made absolutely no sense. He chuckled, lightly silencing them in that instant. "God, how much you squirm from the simplest pull of your chain. Don't make a deal with that mindset there. You'll get torn to shreds. Anyway, come on in and sit down. I wanted to talk to you about your work." Now is their time to act. They could confidently sit down and explain how they had never made a mistake and that it simply was recorded wrong. Or they could apologize before he even accused them of anything, catching him off guard. They were ready to face this moment head on, taking control and fixing everything. Or at least that is what they thought. While this all played out in their head, they stiffly marched towards the chair, slowly hunkering themselves in once they had made it. No matter how much of a hero they were in their head, not a single sound would leave their mouth. Now, no need to be scared. I know I could be a bit intimidating, but trust me, I don't bite. Except that one lady a few years back, but she had it coming. I mean, the audacity to take the last apple on a Wednesday when the prices were so low. It's genuine theft. Anyway, back to you. You have caught my eye recently while I was skimming through checking everyone's numbers over the last 6 months. This is it. This is how they would die. losing their job and dying homeless on the side of the road, no better than the pavement itself. They thought back on all their fond moments on the job to try and save what little time they had left, only to realize there were very few moments on the job that were even worth reliving. Maybe this was a good thing then. They never liked this job anyway. They could get paid much more to do incredible things like act and sing, or maybe even cook. They had no reason to stay chained to their dehumanizing job at a dizzyingly dull desk. Yet, no matter how much the stem sliced and slashed their hand, they could not let go of it. They still held tight, only making the pain worse as it bled them dry. No matter how much it hurt, they only gripped tighter because they knew if they let go, they would no longer be able to see their rose. While it took so much from them, its beauty was mesmerizing. It had already latched, and no matter how far-fetched the idea was, they would stay until they were finally able to tell him. So, I saw that 2 months ago you were on top of our profit sheet, which, let me tell you, is a wonderful place to be. That gives you some points in my books for sure. So I kept a mental note of that, and when I checked next month's profit sheet, there you were on top of it again. Now, 2 times could just be a coincidence, but I had a feeling this wasn't the case. Especially since the gap between you and the second highest earning had grown to be a canyon. I couldn't rely solely on my gut, though, so I stuck it out, waiting if this fire would snuff itself out. And I looked at this month's report, and, well, needless to say, it was not exactly what I was looking for. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't bad, but being slightly above average was not what I was looking for. Now you may be telling yourself, oh no, is he going to lower my salary? And while doing that is incredibly fun and makes me more money, I did not want to do that this time. I know, that's pretty out of character for me, but I guess I must have woken up on the right side of the bed this morning. So, I wanted to ask you, do you know why you were performing so well before? Their mind panics, realizing they were only able to process half of what was being said and terrified at what it meant. All of this combined with being put on the spot sent them rocketing, bouncing off the walls in their own mind to muster up some sort of answer. Well, they would just have to answer it honestly. Well, no, they couldn't do that. What would he think if they admitted to that? They just needed to calm down and take a second to gather their thoughts. They had tried out meditating that one time and kind of remembered the breathing pattern, so maybe that would help. In, out. In, out. In. If I may make a suggestion, maybe it's that you feel work is too below you, which, while an opinion others would shun, I understand, as I feel the same way a lot too. So what if I offered you to be my personal Their eyes blew open, wider than they had ever before. They nodded their head fast enough to get whiplash. Though it wasn't very subtle, they would secure the opportunity of a lifetime that day. The rest of the day would fade away into a bliss of imagining the future they had just been granted. Well, at least that was until they laid in bed, drowning in a cold sweat, realizing they knew nothing about what the new job would require. Dragging themselves the next day, carrying their laptop in the bag of their eyes, they reached the office, knocking with what little strength remains. Oh hey, you made it 13 minutes early. I like your punctuality. You know what? For such a great showing, I'll give you a special job. Here are the 200 reports from last night that need to be filed, reviewed, and condensed into a single sheet. Oh, and once you finish that, though not audible, their sigh was loud enough to wake a bear. This was their life now, though. It was the one they had chosen to live, to continue on, holding their rose.